I've been working on Flint for many years. Everyone knows I don't particularly look at this merely as a water story. I think it's just the story of America. There's privatization involved. Run government like a business was involved. Serious government corruption involved. Republican Party and the Democratic Party at fault. So it's all a lot of things into one story. But recently, we obtained information that Governor Snyder, the former Michigan governor, his administration actually destroyed evidence. And we're working on a story about that. And we got the goods. I mean, as an investigative journalist, when you have the goods, like you got the goods. I mean, we got a lot of things that I won't get into here, but we have evidence that during the criminal investigation, they destroyed evidence, they hid evidence, all those things. So I always tell my audience, like, kind of in a sane system, the toughest part for a journalist would be kind of like getting the goods, building the sources, getting this information, not necessarily getting it published. But it's kind of been reversed for me, not just on Flint, but other stories too, where you go to these outlets and you basically just hand them. I mean, full disclosure, you tried to help me with Rolling Stone, I don't know, a year or two ago, and I handed them some pretty substantial things. Thank you, by the way, for trying to help me.
Of course.
And they passed. And it's not just Rolling Stone. There's a lot of them. And they just continually pass. And I just had an NBC News editor basically tell me, yeah, you might technically have new information here, but isn't this kind of stuff that people like assumed? And I said, well, by that standard, why should we bother reporting on Amazon's terrible working conditions or police corruption and brutality? Or why report on anything if the new standard is, well, you might have explosive stuff, but we kind of assume this, right? So I kind of think, getting back to Substack, currently constituted, if you're an investigative journalist, particularly independent, and you're not focused on like the top line hot figures investigating Trump, Russia, those things that you just described have become entertainment, and you're more interested in covering local corruption, state level corruption, communities being poisoned. There's really not that many homes for that kind of investigative reporting anymore in the national media. I mean, The Intercept published it, and I appreciate that. Vice published it, but it wasn't even easy with them to get these things published. So I think we're really getting to a point where if you are investigative, you do a mix of everything, commentary, reporting, you kind of don't have a choice because you're on a lonely island. National news outlets, you could bring them evidence of heinous things, but if they don't think they can make money off of it or it's too much work for them, they don't want to publish it.
Yeah, there's a lot going on there, and you hit on a lot of the key points. A lot of these sort of corporate outlets figured out even decades ago that there's a big potential downside to doing a certain kind of investigative reporting, and people, so the casual news reader is probably familiar with stories like the Brown and Williamson saga with CBS, right, where they tried to do the big tobacco expose with the whistleblower Jeffrey Wigand. There was a Chiquita Banana story that the Cincinnati Enquirer did once upon a time. There was actually Fox tried to do a story about Monsanto. It was a local Fox affiliate. And they all got in legal trouble. Basically, like lawyers, the companies lawyered up, cost these companies, the media companies, lots of money, tying them up in litigation. And so a lot of these companies made an internal calculation like, okay, it's just a headache to do these kinds of stories because we might get sued, right? So if we're going to do any kind of investigative stuff, let's just make it something that's not going to get us in any kind of legal difficulty. Then there's the additional calculation of, well, is this going to result in enough traffic to justify taking a really good reporter off the content beat for 8 weeks or 12 weeks, right? Because we can make a lot of money doing, like you could have somebody like me write 3 columns a week, and that's going to generate X amount of content. But if I spend 3 months on an expose about Pentagon accounting, which I did a few years ago,
I got through 75% of it. It was damn.
Yeah, it's a long one, I know, but it better get a ton of traffic, right? Or else it's a loss for the company. So all these things come into play, and then you add the additional thing of, you're talking about Flint, which is a negative for both political parties, right? Like, nobody comes out looking good in that story. You can't sell it as if you can't sell something as political propaganda, they don't want any part of that either. Right. So, it's a minefield of stuff that reporters a generation ago just didn't even think about. They would come to their editors and say, here, we got this cool thing. And the editor would usually be gung-ho about it. It would be somebody way upstairs who would say no. Now it's the editors who are saying no.
Right. And my last question, yesterday, I think Katie, or I don't know, Saturday, forget, did a telethon, Free Julian Assange. Biden, not much media coverage, but has decided to continue trying to prosecute Julian Assange. To me, clearly, I mean, a judge has ruled he shouldn't be extradited. I don't agree with her reasons. Her reasons seem to side with the basis of the accusation, but just that mentally it wouldn't be okay for him to come to America's prisons. But putting all that aside, like, it kind of just has been accepted that this is going on. And getting back to the squad, Bernie, I don't even hear progressives talking about this in Congress, that he's currently languishing in prison, but he hasn't been, the ruling was he wasn't going to be extradited. They let terrorists walk while appeal is going on. So why is Julian Assange languishing there? And at the moment, I mean, it looks to me like this, the appeal process, this could be years, if not decades. So what are your thoughts on the fact that he's still languishing there, and there does not seem to be any real organized effort on the left to pressure Biden and now Attorney General Merrick Garland?
So we had Daniel Ellsberg, Katie and I had Daniel Ellsberg on a couple of weeks ago to our show asking about this. And there are two points about this that I think are important for people to understand. A, I have to imagine that most people just are not grasping what this case is about, because if they did, they would be a lot more freaked out than they currently are. This is not about 2016. It's not about spying for the Russians. This is about stuff that happened in 2011, 2010. And the essence of the case is receiving, conspiring to receive, obtaining, and publishing what they call national defense information, which doesn't even have to be classified. It's a subjective determination that the government can make. If you just have the stuff without even publishing it, each count of that in the Espionage Act is 10 years. So what they're essentially saying, and there's 17 of these counts in the Assange case. So what they're essentially saying is what the stuff that reporters do, national security reporters do, basically every day. Like, I would say that in my career, I don't cover national security as a rule, but I do have people that I talk to every now and then. Probably last year, I heard something I shouldn't, maybe 5 or 6 times, right? Somebody who does this more regularly probably is doing this every single day. And that means that the government now, if they win this case against Assange, will have the ability to put any reporter in jail forever just for doing the job. Okay, that's the first thing that I think people don't understand, is that what's at stake with this case. The second thing is, look what happened, and I don't want to take sides in this dispute because I thought it was stupid, but the whole Taylor Lorenz, Glenn Greenwald flame war, right, that happened on the internet, and every journalist in America.
For those that don't know, Taylor Lorenz is a New York Times tech reporter or something, and right. She's misreported a couple things, but Glenn Greenwald and her got into it on Twitter.
Right, and she claimed, and she said this whole thing about how she was being, it was abusive the way he treated her, and there was like a climate of abuse, and I don't want to weigh in on that at all, but what I will say is that every journalist it seems like every mainstream journalist in America suddenly was like wrapped with attention and rallying to the cause of Taylor Lorenz because, you know, some mean things were said about her online. And they're not paying attention to this case, which, if Assange loses, is going to give the government power to put every single one of them in jail forever just for picking up the phone. It tells you a lot to me that I just have limitless contempt now for people in this profession, because the people that I grew up with, like I was an intern at the Village Voice when Nat Hentoff worked there in the 80s. Like, this whole idea of not grasping the civil liberties implications of stuff like this. If you work in the press and you don't get that, you shouldn't be in this job. I just don't understand the non-response to the case. I don't know how you feel about it, but for me, I think it's insane.
Well, for me, I take it. I mean, I'm by no means comparing myself to Assange, but for me, there's personal stakes. We just spoke about a story we've been trying to publish. Part of the reason we try to go to larger outlets to get it published. Yeah, they're larger, so better, you know, to get it out to more readers. But number two, I mean, we need legal protections in this environment. I mean, the story that we're talking about with destroyed evidence and this and that, I mean, we have a lot of stuff that's confidential. We got it legally just through the normal journalistic process, but under the new wild, wild west, that is, you know, Julian Assange tried to hack a password. Do we have any evidence? Not really, but we're just going to say that. I feel personally, as an investigative journalist, that I could be targeted legally by not just government, but, you know, defense lawyers who want to bastardize that I was somehow involved with improperly or illegally getting information. And since the media is silent on Assange, you think they're going to come to my defense if that's tried on me or any other investigative reporter? It doesn't need to just be about war crimes. It could be about anything. Hope you enjoyed that last video. Hop on over to statuscoup.com where you can sign up for our email list and become a member for as low as $5 to $10 a month. Membership is how we grow. That's statuscoup.com/join. And remember, join our email list so we can grow the revolution with you.